Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Full Force News Burst live special as I slam on the table and shake everything. Brought to you by GeneralsJoesReborn.com with me, Christopher McLeod, aka Diagnostic 80. It looks like I'm naked. I'm not. I'm just wearing my skin tone like coloured shirt. Hilarious. I didn't think about that initially, and I have worn this in the past and got pelters for it on streams. So it's hilarious. Hope everyone's doing really well. Yes, I'm continuing. I didn't get a chance to do yesterday because I was too tired. Got in late as well, and didn't want to have to do the show necessarily yesterday. So I thought I'd do it tonight instead. Got a bit of time. Let's utilize that time. Let's fill any slight bit of time I have. Let's fill it with stuff. So yes, continuing our celebration of reaching 9,000 Facebook followers, but then today specifically 1,000 Instagram followers. So we only started that not too long ago. It hasn't been too long in its life yet. I haven't even had a year on it yet, I don't think. But so we're really happy with all that kind of stuff. And of course, kind of as a celebration, I thought, let's talk about my most wanted Haslabs. So with the Facebook celebration that we did a couple of days ago, we looked at the G.I. Joe Haslabs that I really want to see happen in the future. And this time we're doing Cobra. And quite interestingly enough, Hasbro knew this was going to be happening. So they posted a little teaser today, which we'll get stuck into first before we get into my most wanted Haslabs for the Cobra team. Anyway, hope everyone's doing well in the chat. And yeah, I met Naked HD, and all I got with this lousy t-shirt. Future, indeed, nice, keeping it in the in jokes there. I like it very much. I hope everyone's loads of you in the chat already. Brilliant stuff. We're going to get stuck in right away, so let's do it. We've got some fun things to talk about first, and then we'll talk about my most wanted Cobra Haslabs. Let's do it. So like I said, 1,000 Instagram followers. So first and foremost, if you're following us on Instagram, thank you very much. And if you're following us on any platform, whether it be Facebook, or if you just like to watch the YouTube videos, or whatever it may be, Podbean even. I know there's still a few of you out there that listen to the audio. And I did get some feedback. Shout out to Daryl DePriest, who messaged me the other day to say, can you sort out that bit of gap of audio at the beginning where it's just silent? And I said, yeah, I'm just being lazy in that situation. I'm literally taking the live stream audio and throwing it up on the audio channel. So yeah, I will start editing that. My bad. And we'll start with today's episode, Daryl. So hopefully you won't be thinking, why is it silent for the first minute and a half? Anyway, massive shout out to Daryl DePriest, and I can't believe you still listen to the episodes, but that's amazing stuff. But yeah, let's move on. So thank you to Daryl, and also for those who don't know who Daryl DePriest is, shame on you, but Daryl was at Hasbro, was a big deal at Hasbro for a long time, and yeah, was obviously kind of important for the brand's development over that period of time. So massive shout out to Daryl and all the great work you did on the brand, my good man. And we'll have to hang out soon, definitely as well. So yeah, let's get into this. So thanks again. And if you're not following on Instagram, go over there, go over to the Full Force Podcast on Instagram, give us a follow, and yeah, start interacting. It's great. Right then. Now, I've already said that, so that's that. I should have switched slides as I was talking about that, but I didn't, did I? So there we go. Now, this was posted earlier today by the Hasbro G.I. Joe brand team. It posted on Hasbro Pulse social channels, and is basically a poster of the Regal Cobra Commander from the Classified Series design in an I Want You propaganda poster. But you may notice some things not only in the poster but also in the actual post they made, the actual kind of information they put into the blurb, I should say, as well. So let's break this down. First and foremost, you can't really avoid that, can you? Now, it's been one of the worst kept secrets in the G.I. Joe fandom. There's always one, isn't there? There's always the worst kept secret in the fandom. And until you get a leak or a whatever, or something slightly official, it's like, oh, okay. So there you go. What is that, you may ask? That is a tampo that appears on, or sticker, whatever however you want to call it, that appears on the Rattler. Now, it's been. Let's go through the history of why everyone thinks it's the Rattler first and foremost. It all really kicked off. There's a couple of things. We have heard of focus groups in that Hasbro put on for lots of different, kind of fans and people and stuff that kind of get in what's the word, invited specifically by request. Not by, no, they get invited, not by request. They just get randomly invited, and they run these focus groups and talk about certain things. And one of those focus groups they've done, or a few focus groups I think they've done, have kind of like looked at the possible Haslabs and kind of getting some kind of reactions from that. Obviously, the Rattler has appeared a couple of times, so in those kind of discussions and chats and everything. And on top of that, sorry, I'm trying to think of the history here of how it broke down. The next thing was SDCC and the last SDCC. Now, at that San Diego Comic Convention 2023, yeah, what are we now? 2024 is coming up, isn't it? It's 2023. A number of interviews were done on the floor with the team, with John Warden, with Lenny, with Emily, and in those kind of chats, not just interviews that were made it public viewing on videos and stuff. Shout out to A Toy Kind of Mood and many others that did a lot of cool little kind of on the floor kind of interviews and stuff. Not only did they say on camera, but also in lots of multiple chats in and around the booth with fans, with people that were kind of just interested about what was going on, etc., etc. A big thing came out of that where Lenny did divulge quite a bit of information regarding how a Rattler could be done, basically. And I think one of the things that popped out was a comment that he made about they like being able to do jets because of the fact you can kind of put them at like a certain angle to negate depth of space, shelf space, as opposed to, it's more about the height. In that case, if you can kind of angle it so the wingspan is taking up less depth or less, of the shelves. So that was one little point he made, and another one was kind of like the dispelling of other possible options. So kind of almost, out of a, I don't know, sort of like determining that something wasn't happening, pushing another one to the forefront. Do you know what I mean? And of course, in those particular chats, the Thunder machine was mentioned to be too small for a Haslab, as was a number of other vehicles in the kind of mid-range. And I think that was kind of almost like a hint at the fact they're going to be doing mid-range size vehicles in like Hasbro Pulse and possibly retail in the future. But you know what I mean? Like that's what he was hinting at, right? And I say possible retail in the future because the Stinger was Famazon, wasn't it? So again, different options we've already had with that kind of size vehicle. Now, that said, the Rattler almost, I believe, was almost kind of mentioned so often and brought up so often in these chats that it felt like, oh, wow, they're literally pushing this quite a lot. They're almost like telling us to a certain degree. But I think there was that kind of thing we were also kind of thinking at the same time of it might be too big, yada, yada, yada. Like the Sky Strike has been talked about in the past, and that was a little bit too large, according to Lenny. But the Rattler, being a different size, different kind of like shape than the Sky Striker, it's less about that length taking up a lot and the massive wingspan, and it's more about being a bit more of a shorter sort of A10 kind of like clone, isn't it? So effectively, it was one of those things I think everyone was kind of putting 2 and 2 together and getting 55, but also it made a lot of sense. It looked that a lot of things kind of gave it credence. Iconography, the Rattler is extraordinarily iconic, whether it is because of that A10 silhouette, the VTOL switch wings and everything, the cartoon, the comics, whatever you name it, the Rattler is definitely 100% a iconic vehicle for Cobra, right? So that is always one thing you got to kind of look out for with the Haslabs. They're gonna go with the iconography. They're gonna go with the things that scream GI Joe, that kind of make sense. Size as well, obviously that comes into play. Size queen that I am. And yeah, sorry, I will get to some of your comments in a second, guys. Sorry, it's I'm trying to stay on target. And with that, all of that kind of information, it's definitely swelled into more of a fan expectation, and almost like coming to terms with the fact that it's going to be a Rattler. Now, we haven't had the major leaks this year that we did with the Dragonfly, which actually worked in Hasbro's favor in a weird way, because it 100% took like the perception from the fandom regarding all of the Dragonfly leak and all of that kind of stuff was so like blown ridiculously out of, like it was so kind of crazy, and everyone I think looked at it and with a sort of like, yeah, that's not the case. Do you know what I mean? A lot of us did think, no, that can't be real. It's got to be like, this has got to be like some sort of craziness going on. And because of that, the fan community effectively debunked the fact that it was going to be a Dragonfly from that moment. And this is weird, because I definitely saw that conjecture across all the comments. I didn't see anybody really saying it's going to 100% be the Dragonfly, other than the people that were yelling it at the top of their voices in the fight that was going on. So I found that quite interesting. And then, of course, Hasbro didn't bother making any statements or debunking anything or saying anything else. They just kind of went along with, they didn't do anything, they didn't address it, and therefore everyone just thought, oh, it must be absolute garbage. And so we were all thinking about what it could be, all the different things it could be, and then lo and behold, they start doing the leaks, and it's like, oh, it's a Dragonfly, isn't it? Not the leaks, but the hints, the teasers, and it was like, oh, okay, it's a Dragonfly. So we haven't had that this time. We haven't had a lot of sort of like leaks like that, or kind of like a big kind of obvious one, or where they've accidentally posted it on Hasbro Pulse early and someone's seen it, and it's like that kind of, none of that's happened yet. So it might do, you never know. It's only July the 10th. There's still time, so it could be one of those things where we get like a cheeky leak. We've had cheeky leaks of all sorts of stuff so far. They usually do manage to keep a good lid on the Haslab stuff, though. I mean nobody really knew about the HISS tank really until they heard the tank treads at the end of that video kind of going by, and everyone's like, oh, Haslab, and it's going to be classified, and it's going to have a tank tread, so obviously it's got to be the HISS tank. So a lot, but again, nothing was, they kept a good lid on that, basically, is what I'm saying. But again, lots of hints and teases and nod wink wink sort of vibes. So yeah, in any case, we're at a different point. This had a completely different life cycle than the HISS tank and the Dragonfly in terms of the development and what we know about it and all that kind of stuff. So we've had three completely different, I don't know, Haslab build-ups, I would say. The HISS tank obviously got a huge what's the word, like I said, like a marketing push, and like a marketing package where you had like all the fun things kind of leading up to what was coming, and everything, all the kind of like comments and the blurb and the information and the all that kind of stuff. So we had that going all year long, basically. So the HISS tank got some sort of like, got like an interesting lead in. The Dragonfly got an interesting lead in, but also the huge leak that happened early on that seemed to be ignored by the fandom, which was again rather hilarious. And then it was the bait and switch, and it's like, oh, here's a Dragonfly, and we're all like, oh. So who knows how this one's going to go, but so far so good, I would say, in that it was slightly different. It's almost like the Hasbro team themselves sort of gave this one away and continue to give it away without there being any leaks or anything like seriously, major like that. And then we get something like this, which is kind of hinting heavily at it. And the other thing I wanted to kind of add to this, not only do they have this image on the I Want You poster, this tampo that obviously appears on the Rattler, original Rattler, But they also posted this blurb, which again gives away a little bit of information. So launch, obviously, launch synonymous with planes, of course. Now, the other thing, a lot of people, I've noticed a few comments popping up about people saying, how do we know this is classified? It could be 3 3/4. Well, I mean, it's got classified series, not just once, but 3 times in the tags. It's utilizing a classified Cobra commander on the poster. It has been said that they're not going to be doing 3 3/4 because Super 7 obviously are kind of doing that at the moment. So all of that stuff kind of thrown in, we've got a few, we can probably make some assumptions that I don't think are, crazy. One, it's going to be classified. Two, it's more than likely going to be the Rattler, and that's it. They're all the assumptions we can make, I think, at the moment. Oh yeah, BMAC also posted this image. Thank you, Paul, and captioned it, "Join the Cobra Air Force." There you go. He's given it away completely there. So yeah, it all looks very much, and let's get into the Cobra Haslabs, but I'll start with the Rattler because obviously that, makes a lot of sense here. And this will be my most wanted Cobra Haslabs, and not just obviously, like we've already kind of said that we know that Rattler's coming. Okay, the Rattler is coming. That's just, it's going to happen. With that said, you know what? RKW, I knew there was going to be one I'd forget. You know how I forgot the Warthog on the last episode? I've forgotten the Cobra transport helicopter, the Aspid, because the Aspid is one I wanted to talk about. Maybe I can talk about it with this image on the screen. Let's talk about doing something we haven't seen before, because I think that is important, genuinely. And I will start with that one before we get into the Rattler. So with the Aspid, in fact, I'll come back to it, but we'll start with the Rattler and I'll come back to the Aspid and then continue. Okay. Rattler. Now, I think we can all assume we're going to be getting all of your kind of classic features and bells and whistles on this one, right? Flight stand, most likely. And I'm hoping it's very similar to the one we had with the Sky Striker, so that we get that kind of movement with it. I love what they've done with the Dragonfly stand, and it probably will be a solid stand just based on the size. But if they could do one that had like a little, like movement in it, oh, that would be like chef's kiss. But I understand if it's easier to do something that is like what the Dragonfly is utilizing, where you can have like 4 different options, where you can kind of have it pointing down on that side, pointing up on that side, or you could flip it around and have it the other way. So like I get it. And again, I could see that either way is going to be fine with me, but I would love it if we had that maneuverable stand. The fact they didn't do it with the Dragonfly does make me feel like they probably won't do it with this, just based on size. So anyway, so in terms of the base features, I think we can expect the flipping wings, the V stall, VTOL. I think it's a V stall, isn't it? Because it can short takeoff and landing, so it's a V stall, and I suppose the wings make it VTOL capability. So the whole thing is a V stall, though, isn't it? Vertical short takeoff and landing. Now, you've got, like, I would expect though that to be the case 100%. Obviously, you're going to have your base offering as well with all the missiles and the weapons kind of add-ons and everything. But then on top of that, blast effects, whether it be engine, like you can see on the card art, or blast effects for the missiles and the machine gun at the front. I can see all of these things happening. Obviously, like, lights, again, I expect them to be lights on there, kind of on the wing tips, on the underside, maybe one on the top. Yeah, or lit up cockpit, lit up gunner station, all that kind of stuff. I could see all of that happening. Removable, maybe battle damage panels like the original had. I could see them throwing something like that in. Again, they didn't do it with the Dragonfly, but maybe that's something they could incorporate into the Rattler to give it a little bit more extra. Oh, motorized gun would be cool. The cannon, Brian. Yeah, so it would go. That would be really, really cool, genuinely. Ryan says 3 unlocked tiers: Purple Hiss Tactician, Mephisto, and Ghost Rider Robbie Reyes. That's hilarious, Ryan, but probably no. A lot of people are still trying with the Hooded Cobra Commander. Do you think they're going to do it on this one? I don't think they will, but let's just dream for a few of you on that one, shall we? Shelf Presence thinks 300 to 350. We'll see, but I don't think it'll be that much. It might break 300, but I don't know. I don't know, honestly, but I don't think they're aiming to do that. I think they're trying to keep it in that price point that they've had. Not that it's been the same price point with the Hiss Tank and the Dragonfly, but trying to keep it in that kind of vicinity. And if they can, then fantastic. Now, in terms of, so all of that kind of makes sense, like all the weapon systems, some battle damage panels, maybe a broken cockpit to, kind of like, again, like as a call out to the comic with the battle between Wild Weasel and Ace. Maybe they do something like that. The other thing I could see, obviously, here, other than that, is all of the the tampos and the extra stickers and all that kind of stuff. So stickers to make it different in some way. Don't care, shut up and take my money. Price should be comparable to the Dragonfly or no more than the Hiss, in my opinion. I don't think it will be crazy. This happens quite a lot, doesn't it, guys? The price becomes like a big talking point, and then they surprise us. So is it one of those things where is it like a defense mechanism to kind of be like, expect the worst and then hopefully get the best sort of situation? Because I'm not worried about, and not because I can afford it, but because I don't think it's going to be as crazy as a lot of people expect it will be. That said, it could be, and I could be way out of bounds, but they have done this a lot, and every single time, almost without fail, it hasn't been with I would say the Viper 3 pack aside, price has been pretty much, I would say, completely appropriate for what we're getting in terms of the figures. Of course, yeah, you could throw back to Kamakura as well, actually. But again, these are things I think they've learned from. And they know that even if it's going to be something that everyone's going to throw money at anyway, they might just be like, whatever. But I think it might be 299, like a few people are saying in the comments. That said, I don't know. But I could see it being the kind of just under 300 situation. We'll see, though. We'll see. Again, if you want to Doom project, that's totally fine. But again, like I said, I think it might be more of a self-defense mechanism, so that it doesn't feel as bad when it comes through. But yeah, the Hiss was 299. Yes, it was HoloNet 29999. But I think it will probably be in that range. I don't think it will be. I don't think it will. I think that they're trying to do that. You know what I mean? I believe that's their aim on this particular one. That said, let's, because that is it's worth talking about. I think it's been covered, and yeah, that we'll move on from that, because of course we won't know until it comes out. Let's face it. So yeah, all of those features make sense. The flight stand, the missiles, the blast effects, the lights, and possibly sounds, because that'd be cool with the. We haven't had sounds yet, so it's not something that I would completely expect. But in this case, I think those are all pretty sound. Also, I would love a blast effect on the front cannon that was sort of like, almost, do you know what I mean? Like sort of like staggered bullet fire in like a coil. How cool would that be? So they were all coming out of the end of the barrel, but like at different, kind of like staggered, because obviously they fire at is it the top point or the bottom point? I can't remember. They fire at like one point of the kind of the barrel, so it's spinning round but just going out at the same spot. But yeah, so it would have been cool to have it jagged like that if that was the case, but it ain't. So it would be cool to just have like a burst, kind of like long burst of fire going out the front of it, like it is on the card art, basically the box art. Yeah, we've talked about the vertical takeoff. Absolutely, I do think that the wings will do that. I'm worried about the price being doubled here. It won't, Robert. It won't be doubled. I don't think they're going to be doubling it, mate. I really don't. I think we're very safe in the fact that it will not be $600 or even close to that. Yeah, it is going to be a long 2 weeks, isn't it, Brian? Definitely. So let's talk. What are we getting with this, do you think, in terms of figures? Now, obviously, the base offering's got to have Wild Weasel, 100%. End of story. Move on. There are a lot of other kind of interesting options you could throw in here. We've got like, Pilot Baroness has been talked about quite often, and that would be something where we could get a new Baroness, because obviously I know we've had retooling on a head, heads, I should say, but in terms of the actual body, maybe we could get something different there. Maybe we could have a flight suit for the Baroness. That would be kind of cool. I know we've got the Sunbow one where she's got that kind of really interesting helmet. Would be pretty cool. But I wouldn't be like crazy into that. Like, it would be fun, but I kind of feel like you could throw a helmet in with another character in there, right? And that helmet could then be utilized with the Baroness, the same, the one that we saw in the Sunbow cartoon. That would be kind of fun. Major Blood is another big character in the Rattler, because he appears in that first episode, doesn't he? But it's not technically a Rattler as we know it. It's like that early sort of like animation model that looks nothing like a Rattler, but is obviously that's what it is. It's just one of those things that obviously haven't been fully, realized until at that point. In any case, retro Major Blood is a good shout, Paul, because of that. Now, I'm not saying that that's what I would want in my tier list, but it's a good shout as a possible option, definitely. Kangor, says Benedict. Interesting. Bikini Baroness, says that. I don't think we're going to get that one. Cobra Night Vulture in Rattler colors. Cutlets? Cobra Night Vulture in Rattler colors, says C Sims. That's pretty dope. Paratrooper, yeah. Paraviper would be pretty cool. Now, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, don't do a Paraviper because people want to army build it." But you could do a Paraviper redeco. So you could have it like the Paraviper in the blue for the Rattler, and then later you could get the one in black for like army building purposes and what have you. And then one could be the Paraviper, what do you call it? Paraviper officer or something. So, I think there's a way where they could do something like a Paraviper. And I don't know, I'm just throwing it in there, possibly with a Paraviper, a parachute, seeing as we've had a Dragonfly hinting at the crap out of, or a Ripcord hinting at a possible or almost certain parachute to come in the line. So, yes, maybe we see the parachute here in the Haslab. Maybe that's where we see it. Don't know. I'm just saying. Now, the other kind of characters, yeah, I was kind of getting there, Paul, but that's good shouts, absolutely. So, lots of really cool South American options. So, I think Argentina, they had or was it Brazil? I think it was Brazil, actually, wasn't it? Was it Brazil that had? Yeah, it was Brazil that had the kind of Sky Patrol ones, where it was Escapado Viador, and what were the other ones? Albatross. Yeah, I'm looking. I'm cheating. Where? Okay, yeah. So Abutre Negro would be a really cool one to do. Escorpiao Voador is another one. Agua Commando. These would all be kind of cool ones to do. The Commandos Emejao kind of Sky Patrol characters, basically. And Albatross, who, like, you're talking like repaints of other figures, made into other characters. But again, I think would be really cool. And we've got like, the Brazilian kind of artwork on the cards and everything. It'd be so cool. It'd be so cool. So again, and the fact that we got Glenda as an addition in the Dragonfly, I could see them doing another sort of foreign drop in there, which I would be all about 100%. So all of those, and the other ones I think was the Air Trooper. That was another one of my thoughts, because with the Cobra Air Trooper, it's just a trooper with the mask on, isn't it, basically? So I would suggest all of those things are highly possible. Now, the other one that a lot of people have been kind of trying to push to me, which I'll get to in a second, with another possible Haslab that I think that could be done, even despite its size. Relampago and Gatillo are good shouts, Paul, as well, because of Airborne and Ripcord. Yeah, 100%. Relampago. I've completely forgotten how you pronounce that. Someone sent me how to pronounce it not too long ago, and I've been saying it wrong this entire time. I think it's Relampago and Gatillo. But anyway, yes, I believe those would be great shouts for this too. Now, yeah, the other one, as Step Toys quite correctly shouts at me, is Raven. Now, Raven is the Night Raven pilot who shows up in the presence of mine enemies with Slipstream in the summer episode, and they end up getting in a dogfight, crashing together on this like island in the middle of nowhere, and they have to work together to kind of get out of the situation. And Raven ends up actually switching sides, spoiler alert, by ripping the Cobra logo off her arm when Cobra leave her for dead, basically. And the Joes rescue her. They don't leave her to, just, swim in the middle of the ocean for not very long, because she'd be eaten by sharks. So, yeah, because of that, she changes, she rips the Cobra logo off her arm. Now, the thing with that is I would love a Raven 100%, but I want it with the Night Raven. Yes, the Night Man, the Day Man, the Night Raven. Now, I know this is a bit of, and I know I've not done what I said I was going to do and go to the Aspid, but this just segued too nicely, and I will talk about the Aspid. But in terms of the Night Raven, I think this is possible. It's long, but it's not as wide. It's got a thinner sort of width. So with that, it's really just about the length, Kitty said. And I think this is doable. I think this is absolutely doable as a Haslab in the future, and I think it would do absolute numbers, because it's still got a lot of really cool features to it. You've got the drone, arming drone, that comes off the back of it and everything. You could make that, fit a figure. You have, of course, the amazing cockpit, which drops out of the bottom, sort of like the mouth of a snake sort of thing coming down. You can actually see it called out on the box if you're not aware of that. But those kind of features for a Night Raven, so dope. And again, same kind of vibe. You could have your flight stand, you could have all your blast effects, weapon systems, maybe even like a different drone. I don't know, but there's a lot of things I think you could do with this one. And then, of course, you'd have the Strato Viper that came with it. And then you could throw in some other really cool things, like, I don't know, maybe figures we didn't get with the Rattler, like, I don't know, Raven, for example. I mean, a blooming Strato Viper and Raven would make so much sense, it hurts. And then, of course, pick any other two figures, or however many figures we get in Haslabs now. It's 4, isn't it? So yeah, and any other two figures that could make sense. Now with the Rattler, I also thought it would be kind of cool if they did Wild Weasel comic colors. I did this post a little while ago. It put like a little image of all of the different things that you could possibly see with a Rattler, and I did like the idea of a comic colors Wild Weasel. But the thing with that is, would you want 2 Wild Weasels? One of them, I guess, could be like the Gunner, like a Rattler Gunner, but in Wild Weasel comic colors. I haven't got the image on screen. I should have put it on there. I didn't think about this. I did think about it, and then I just decided against it. But the comic colors are drastically different. And you could do a female figure in that style, in that deco, as the Rattler Gunner. So you get a Wild Weasel, and you get like a female comic colors Wild Weasel deco homage as a Gunner. I think that would be kind of cool, honestly. And if I have somehow unlocked their what they've done, it's completely by accident. So if it comes out next couple of weeks or whatever, and it's a female Wild Weasel basically, but in the comic colors deco, then I'm sorry, but that's just complete coincidence. No one will believe me if that is the case. So I'm kind of hoping it isn't that now. In any case, I think that would be pretty dope. Wild Wheezy. Yeah, so I think that would be wicked. Now, let's talk Aspid for a second before I move on, go back to the Night Raven, because I mean, the Night Raven kind of speaks for itself. It's the same base offering as the Rattler in terms of all of your, stuff. And then, of course, I guess you got the Ramp Rat, which you could throw in with either of these. I think Ramp Rat would work, wouldn't it? So Ramp Rat, female Wild Weasel, Wild Weasel. That's what I'm saying. And when I say female Wild Weasel, I'm just saying it for ease. Obviously, it wouldn't be female Wild Weasel. It would be a female Rattler Gunner, and in Wild Weasel's deco. Okay, that's what I think would be really cool as a little loadout of maybe a couple of Ramp Rats, different decos, maybe a female, maybe a male. I don't know. But I think that would be kind of a cool loadout. Or you could save one of the tiers for an absolute banger like a Scorpio Viador or, one of these Sky Patrol Brazil sort of characters. Anyway, that said, that would be my ideal lineup, actually. I think I've just said it out loud. Wild Weasel, female Rattler Gunner in Wild Weasel deco, Ramp Rat, and forgotten already what I said the other one was going to be. Oh, yeah, and Escorpio Viador, I think it is. I'm going to just check. Yeah, Escorpio Voador. Let's get it right, McLeod. Feasel would be an easier way to say it, wouldn't it? Yeah, absolutely. Wild Widow. Oh, I love that. I low-key love that Viper Scout. Wild Widow. That is wicked. That is absolute fire. I love that as an idea. Okay, we've literally sorted this out, haven't we? That's what you're getting in a couple of weeks' time. Anyway, joking aside, let's talk Aspid quickly. So, getting something new in the line that hasn't been done before, but has obviously got some sort of background in media, and that is the Aspid, the Cobra kind of like transport helicopter, which I think again is absolutely doable in the classified scale. I don't think it's as long, Kitty said, as the Tomahawk, but it is stumpier and thicker and wider, girthier, and it would have like like a big kind of like, so in my mind it would be the kind of empty center basically, which had a connectivity for either pods that go in there. So there'd be one pod, obviously you're not going to have like loads of pods, but you'd have one pod that would come open and you'd open it and there'd be like things inside it for like maybe like a Cobra sort of like computer panel sort of like communications sort of setup, so they could drop the pod off and then the pod could then open and you've got like effectively like a play set of an interior of like a Terradrome or something. I think that would be absolutely phenomenal to start with, kind of like a 2-in-1 sort of situation. And then so yeah, and then obviously that central section, which would be empty, could also then have a winch, and then like that kind of classic one where you've got the long rope and then it spreads out into like 4 ropes on the corners of like a netting or something that then carries vehicles on pallets of weapons, that kind of stuff. How cool would that be? Could you imagine a pallet that could come off the bottom of the box that connected to the thing? So that would come off the bottom as a separate piece, right? But it would be connected to the body of this base all the time. But you could take it off, and that's where you could put like a vehicle, like a Stinger, or something that would fit. Obviously a his tank would be probably too big, but like something like that, like an HMS or something like that. And then that would be the pallet that you could then attach the rope mechanism thing to, and you could carry like loads with the attack helicopter. I think that would just be the most phenomenal thing ever. Just genuinely the most phenomenal thing ever. So yeah, that would be my Aspid kind of thing. I know I should have had images for this one, but sorry guys. Someone just, I'm glad someone mentioned it in the comments before I started talking about it though. So anyway, I think that would be so cool. And then obviously that would have the the movable winch, obviously lights, all that kind of jazz. But then like you could have a stand, but I think this one you'd want to kind of display hanging up really, but obviously a flight stand would make sense. But it would need to plug in to like, it would be difficult, wouldn't it? Because obviously without the box, it would have to have a flight stand connectivity for the bottom of the box thing that goes in the inside. But yeah, anyway, that said, I think that would be a phenomenal cool vehicle. You could do some sort of new helicopter pilot, or you could do a gyro viper, although we'll get to gyro viper in a little while as well, spoiler alert. You could do all sorts of different things, but you could do some really cool like new kind of pilot for it basically, and I think that would be really cool. New pilot for a new vehicle that we haven't seen in any form other than in the comics and so on and so forth. So that I think would be amazing. But how cool would it be if the box that connected to the chopper opened out as a playset? Because obviously it's both. It would make sense, and also you could have some cool toy photography opportunities as you opened it up. Because obviously the site that you'd have it like as it opened up. Right, here's my brain thinking about it. Maybe the floor of the box is hinged, folded up, right? So, and then connected to the bottom. Maybe that hinge is the, also opened out. The bottom of it is the pallet that you would kind of carry vehicles with, right? I do want a Predator playset. That's so true, Scott. But if you imagine like that would fold up, so it would when you opened that when you got the box on in front of you, you'd obviously unclip it and it would open, like the front big door thing would open up. The lid would obviously kind of fold up, and then you kind of unravel it, and then the base bottom would open like that. It would kind of like fold open like that, so you'd have a longer double length floor, and you just basically have this build your own playset in there, and inside you'd have all the elements kind of connected to the interior, which you could take out. So you wouldn't have to have your the kind of computer panels and the seats and all that kind of stuff. Take that out, and you've effectively just got an empty box. So it could just be transporting cargo, it could just be transporting troops in there. They could have like a little rack on the top that they could hold on to, like in that, before the door opens up, sort of thing. I think it would be just the coolest thing ever, personally. It would take a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of design that would go into something like that. But I just think of people would go nuts for an Aspid. I think like, it's been one of the things that I think nobody can understand why we haven't had it yet. No one really gets why we haven't had that particular thing done in its proper, in its proper way. And I think that would be so phenomenal. Anywho, that would be the Aspid. And we'll move on from that, and maybe you guys can throw some ideas in as well. Medibay, but it's Mindbenders, so torture chamber. I like that, Nictimus Prime. So again, yeah, you could do different things inside it. You could have different things go in on the interior. That would be really cool. So you could have a little kind of communication station, or you could have Dr. Mindbender's lab, or maybe like a brainwave scanner that they're transporting. Something really cool like that. Maybe you could put other things in it, like smaller vehicles. Maybe a ferret could fit in there in the box itself, or maybe two could fit in there and they could roll out. How cool! So lots of different things like that could be in there. You can have a sort of like Serpentor like tube, where Serpentor is in it, like in all of his wibbliness when he's getting DNA'd up. I can't say words today, can I? But that I think would be really, really cool. A really, really cool idea. Anyway, that's the Aspid. I'll start dreaming about that. I'll probably do an entire episode on the Aspid, and we'll just talk about how cool that could be and what the tiers could be. But in any case, that is probably my most wanted, actually, now thinking about it. How funny is that? Okay, so we've talked about the Rattler, which is obviously coming, obviously, in the next couple of weeks. I mean, why even joke that it isn't? Do you know what I mean? And we've talked about the Night Raven. Another one I think is definitely on the cards, and again features a lot of the same kind of things the Rattler would, but obviously would give us Raven, it would give us a Strato Viper, it would give us maybe multiple other things. Maybe we could get the blue Paraviper with the Rattler and the black Paraviper with the Night Raven. That would be kind of fun. Anyway, that is those. Those are they. What I will say is technically my list at the moment is the Aspid and the Night Raven. So those two are on there definitely. I think the Night Raven is just so cool, and it reminds me of the SR-71, the Blackbird. It reminds me of the really cool thing when we went to. I wasn't aware of this, but I thought the drone was just like one of those crazy ideas dreamt up by the Hasbro design team. But when I, in one of the first, second, or maybe even third times I went to, I've been more than that, to the Ohio Wright-Patterson Air Force Museum. When I was walking around, we saw they had an SR-71, but they also had another one. No, it was the SR-71. It was next to the SR-71. There was a little, what's it called? Like information sort of station sort of thing. And on there, they had the little drone that they had concepted, or may even have actually been a real thing. I can't remember the details of it now. Maybe I could find the picture, because that wouldn't take long, would it? You know what I'm saying? I do have to find it though. So if I go into my images and I look for places, this will narrow it down, and then at least I can yeah, there we go. 411. I feel like I've taken way more than that at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Yeah, here it is. Oh, wow. That was I really like that feature on the phone where you can kind of like search for places, and just that really narrows it down, honestly. There's the SR-71. Absolute babe of a blooming plane. It's so cool. Maybe that was, yeah, it wasn't then, it was the next trip. I've got to get to the next trip now. How many times have I been there? That is the question, actually, on everyone's lips. Unfortunately, I can't find it. I have definitely taken a picture of it. I may even have posted it on Facebook at some point. But there is a D21 drone. Thank you, Paul. Thank you so much. But this drone was actually done, and there was literally a like an image of this actual drone on the back of either it was the SR-71 or it was on a different version, but it was effectively on there. And I was like, oh, this is where they got the idea for the actual drone. So it isn't just like something they dreamt up. Effectively, it existed or exists or sort of existed in some way, shape, or form before the designers got their hands on it. Now, like I said, I love this one. It was one of the ones I just genuinely loved because of the Blackbird and because of, like, was it Daryl? Shout out to Daryl DePriest again, Daryl DePriest, but I think it was Daryl, wasn't it? The movie that had this in it. There's another movie with the SR-71 in, isn't there? And I forget what it's called. Might be a Clint Eastwood movie, but I can't remember now. You'll probably tell me in the comments. That said, that's up there. Now, let's get to the water-based stuff. Now, this is high up on my list of wants for a Cobra Haslab, and it is the Cobra Hydrofoil Moray. This thing, again, it just has major icon vibes to it. Everything we've talked about so far has an iconic touch on it. Like all of these vehicles were so synonymous with G.I. Joe and Cobra, and the Moray. I mean, like, I don't think there's a better water-based vehicle for Cobra. I think this is the one for Cobra, honestly. We do actually talk about another water-based vehicle in a little while for Cobra, but that's in my crazy, but I think it should be done section. Now, the Moray, beautiful, tons of features. You've got your little hidden missile racks. You've got, loads of space for lots of different areas for kind of drivers or pilots, sorry, in this case, and passengers, and obviously people in the back lugging depth charges out, whether it be, like you could have like your SEAL team or your EEL team ready to just hoss in the water, sitting on the edge sort of thing. There's also like, I don't know, just so many cool aspects to this one where you could fill it with features and cool stuff. And a Firefox. Thank you, Stygian 360. Firefox was the other movie I was trying to think of. I should remember that. It's just think of the browser. But anyway, you know, like obviously the little kind of stands that it comes with to kind of keep it upright out of water. But then of course you could have you know, like an even cooler water designed like splash sort of thing, in the same way that I was talking about like a dirt mound with tank treads on it for like a Mobat on the last episode. You could have sort of like water, like a wave of water that it could kind of like, you know, display on, which I think would be so dope, wouldn't it? Oh, I don't know. And like if there was a light underneath, it would like could light up the water a little bit, and that kind of like get that blue kind of flash in there. Oh, it'd be so dope, wouldn't it? So good. So I think that would be really, really awesome. And of course your blast effects, of course your lampreys to pilot it. And just tuned in, was Once a Man lottery revealed? Not that I'm aware of. How do you mean? I can't see anything on the usual things I follow. Let me know in the comments if you understand what that means, because as in like the lottery, as in, you know, how you get them, the times, all that kind of stuff at SDCC. I can't see anything. That doesn't mean there isn't anything out there in terms of information. I just can't see anything on the usual kind of situations here, on the usual platforms. I don't know. What are you technically referring to? I would like to know, because then, of course, I'll be able to talk about it quickly or save it for the weekly, which should be happening on Saturday. We'll see how that goes. No, I can't see anything at the moment. So, yeah, fill me in a little bit more on that if you do have any more information. Anyway, coming back to the Moray, I really think, yeah, we could go to town on this one. And I'm definitely thinking, I don't think this is too big. I think this would be perfect for a HasLab. The thing I think when it comes to HasLabs with classified, there's obviously a line. I think, you know, the Defiant, the Flag, all of those things, the Terradrome, I think are off the table. I don't think play sets are off the table. I think we'll get like small play sets eventually. I think that'd be amazing. But in terms of like your HQ and your Terradrome, I don't think we're going to be seeing any of that in any large capacity ever. Defiant, no. Flag, no. But everything else, I kind of feel like it's going to be a HasLab should be that dream project that you can't get any other way. Like it just can't be done. The His tank almost, I feel like, is like a small kind of situation when it comes to that. Look at the size of the sail barge, for goodness sake. I know that was Star Wars. I know that was the first one and all that kind of jazz and everything. And I know it was 3 3/4, but the feckin' size of it, absolutely huge. So I think that the His tank wasn't. I mean, it was the His tank's huge and it's ridiculous. And yes, forget having space ever again. But I kind of see these HasLabs as like moments where you're just not going to get this. You're not going to get it in any other way, shape, or form. It's now or never. Go for it. So I don't know. I kind of feel like we can push the boundaries a little bit. I don't think the Moray. I think the Moray fits the current HasLab model personally. I don't see it as being too big at all. For a start, all of the figure population of where they would be in and around this vehicle, it's all very close knit in the same area. So you're only talking about the width of two, you know, like a two side by side kind of cockpit situation. And then you're not, I mean, yeah, you could make it massive if you wanted to, but you could also kind of bring that down a touch and get something a little bit more realistic, a little bit more practical. But I think this is doable. And just like I think the Whale is doable, crazily enough, I think the Moray is also extremely doable, Kitty said. So anyway, yeah, lampreys, I think, in this one. I don't think we're going to see Hydra Vipers. I think Hydra Vipers would be they've got to be one of the Hydra Viper. I think in this sense would be one of those ones you'd get like in an airborne fashion as a single figure that came out as this was kind of being delivered or was out on the market, because it would just make it makes sense to be like part of the the water team. I don't know what numbers on this. What numbers on there's I don't even know if that's a number. The backwards RO7 water team. That's what they'd be called. The RO7 water team. But yeah. And they could finally use that logo correctly that they've been using for the HISS tank this entire time, the one that's on the Moray, that beautiful like S-shaped what do you call it? Snake. Chris, Moray or Night Raven? For me, Triple C, Moray is above the Night Raven for what I want. I want the Moray pretty hard. So at the moment it's Aspid at number 1. I don't think that's going to move. Moray at number 2, and because I should have done this, but I haven't. And Night Raven probably about number 3 at the moment. We're getting the Rattler, so that was just me talking about it based on the news today. And yeah, we talked about the whale on the last episode. So if you want to check that out and hear my thoughts on what I think a whale could do in terms of damage to your space, but also the cool things that I thought would be really neat to have as features, go ahead and watch that. Anyway, Cobra Hydroform Moray, hugely iconic. Now, the tears is where it's sticky. Like I said, I think a lot of the water-based Cobras, I kind of want to see as single releases. So I would also shout out possibility of a Sonic Fighters Lamprey as a Moray gunner or something. Or maybe you could do, again, I'm using the same sort of like pattern, but maybe you could do a female lamprey in the Sonic Fighters deco in the same way that we got, or the same way that I thought about doing Wild Weasel as the the comic colors for the female and as a gunner. So maybe that. And there is a lot of play value with the Moray Brian, yes indeed. Yeah. Now, yeah, we'll also come to that in a second, Will. You're getting ahead of yourself there, because I will be talking about something very similar to that. But I wouldn't expect to see the Secto Viper in here, because I think we can stretch to something else later. But yeah, so I like to avoid doing characters or characters that are drivers or pilots in their own right with a vehicle that we probably aren't going to get. I'd rather just hold on to the hope that we do get them at some point. And also, it's been kind of a bit annoying that we have a cover girl, but we don't have a Wolverine. So yeah, maybe we could get retro gung ho, retro rock and roll in a Wolverine at some point in the future, and then it's ton up. Yeah, that's why I'm here. I don't know. Just a guess. If you don't know who Ton Up is, he's basically it's the same figure. It's Rock and Roll G1, but for the Palatoy Action Force line. There you go. Lamprey Officer is a good shout, because there was a Lamprey Officer, wasn't there? There's also a Python Lamprey, isn't there? Hydra Viper Officer is a good shout, but again, I don't know. I just want to avoid a Hydro Viper in this scenario, mainly because it's not really the era, and that is something that bugs me. Yeah, see what I did there? Because it would actually be more in that era, which we'll talk about in a second. Not that it matters; they're all in technically the same universe and era anyway. But just in the way that we got them, and where you see certain characters and figures lining up with other things and vehicles and stuff. But I know it's pedantic, but you know what I'm saying. Destro in scuba suit would be a good shout, Ryan. Actually, now you're thinking, maybe like a Baroness diver would be a good one, kind of like that, like red wetsuit sort of vibe. Yeah, and of course, yeah, Copperhead and no water moccasin. That's kind of sucky as well in a sense, because we now have like 18 Copperheads. Not one of them comes with any sort of hint of a moccasin. But I think a moccasin's too small for a Haslab. I wouldn't want a moccasin for a Haslab. I think it would be a waste, honestly. Anyway. Anywho. And we're definitely not going to get another vehicle in the stretch goals, Bryce. We're not going to get a night landing or anything like that. I mean, we'll get a night landing, I'm sure, as a separate thing. But you're not going to get two vehicles effectively unless it's the drone of a Night Raven or something very, 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 very like low level small. But yeah, I just couldn't see that being the situation. I remember when a lot of people were saying, they should do a vamp and a hiss tank for the one Haslab, and I was like, what? And we ended up getting both of them just completely different scenarios. It's about time for Hire to reveal their copperhead. Yes, it is, Ryan. It is. Refueling trolley, exactly, something like that, or like a weapons transport or something. But you're not going to get something that's massive again. Or like if it's a whale, maybe the little motorcycle. If it's or a surfboard, I like that, Scott. That's pretty cool. Anyway, that's the moray. That's a moray. That's high up on my list of wants. As we move through these, they'll get more ridiculous and more further away from reality. And here we are, straight in there. And I thought I'd throw in an Iron Grenadiers thing, because then this gets talked about a lot, right? The demon. Now, the fact that we're getting a lot of Iron Grenadiers love at the moment, we've got the Iron Grenadier Bat, you're welcome. The Iron Grenadier itself, almost like the Metalhead, and of course the almost certain Destro Iron Grenadier version, right, of Destro. And more, and I have to say, it's got to be his despoiler at some point as well. I mean, they've got to be together. I don't know, that's such a missed opportunity if you don't do a Destro with vehicle. Anyway, that said, the demon. Now, this is probably the biggest. What is this? The biggest thing we've looked at? Kitty said, or is the moray bigger? I know the moray is longer, but this seems like it would be a bit chonky. It would be a bit large across the board. Lots of different sections, lots of different places for figures. Huge, crazy, cool features like the kind of flexed up thing where it raises up and the treads come together. I think this would be really, really interesting, and I think this would be a good one again to do for Haslab, because it's mental. It's not necessarily. I don't think this is. I'm going to go out on a limb here. Everything we've looked at so far is like the iconography of G.I. Joe and Cobra. This, as ridiculous as it looks and is, and specifically what it is, it only exists in G.I. Joe. This doesn't exist anywhere else as another thing. It doesn't have the same gravitas iconography that everything else we've looked at does so far. You may disagree with me if you're a huge Destro fan, of course, and I get it, right? I get it. But from like your kind of like commercial success, would it be one, or would this be looked on as a little bit crazy, a little bit too much? Now, it could be further on in the the time frame. We could be it could be like years and years in the future, something they revisit in like 3055 when they do the when they do the classified look back at Classified, the 55-year series that completely went against all the odds and continued to make characters that had never been in the show. I'm just being an idiot now, but I think it would be kind of cool, right? And of course, with the almost inevitable Destro and Despoiler down the road, that could connect, because the Despoiler does actually connect to the demon on the top right hand side as you're looking at it. Kind of locks in on the top there, which is kind of fun. So the fact that you've got this kind of like possibility of interactivity with different vehicles in the future, I think is an absolute banger. The ferret, obviously the actual character, not the vehicle. The ferret driver would be a great addition. Again, I would say a slept on character. I think the design's pretty cool. They're drivers. A lot of the drivers have in like nice kind of sculpt work and deco and stuff, but they're not like given a lot of gear. So like in certain characters are so synonymous with having loads of stuff and loads of cool kind of like gear, like, you know, Outback looks the way it does with the big backpack and the secondary and everything, and then you've got, like, you know, Tripwire with all his paraphernalia, makes the character almost, doesn't it? You know what I mean? There are very few characters that can get by with minimal, like, weapons and accessories. Some do, obviously. I think you can throw like your Zartans, your Zorana, all those kind of characters in there that they don't necessarily need anything. Like Zorana doesn't need anything. Like, she is often seen without any sort of specific weapon or accessory. You know, she is usually, like, you know, especially in the cartoon, in the cartoon, often without anything. She's not hardly holding anything most of the time, maybe like a pistol or something. So I think certain characters you can actually definitely do that with, but with the drivers, for the most part, they're kept very, you know, very simple, clean, elegant. And I think the ferret driver is actually pretty cool. I think there's a lot of cool, like, little sculpt details on there. The helmet's obviously really awesome as well. So I think it would be great for that. And then, of course, you've got so many different Iron Grenadiers elements you could kind of pour into this. But I'm not going to go into them all because we'll be here for days. But like a lot of the figures are going to have to come out single carded, aren't they? I mean, we're going to have your Target, your Annihilator, your Undertows, your Undertow, regular Iron Grenadier for a start. We've already talked about Destro, of course. Why am I blanking on all of Destro's troops now? Sergeant Major, although he's not really a troop builder, but you know what I mean, like a Sergeant Major, an Iron Grenadier. Volta. I would say Nullify, but he's another driver, so yeah. Okay, yeah, cool. There we go. Darklon, good shout. Good shout. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Triple C. So yeah, I think that said, and thank you, Walter and Paul, for Voltar as well, even though I'd already said that one. But again, a bit of a delay. Get a delay coming through here. Roddy Piper, good shout, Robert. Yeah, I know someone mentioned that earlier. It might have been yourself. But yeah, Roddy Piper, another kind of like famous addition to G.I. Joe in an official capacity as well with the club figure. Anyway, that said, lots of cool things you could do with the Demon. In terms of like base offering, missile, all the weapon systems, all of your blast effects, all of that kind of stuff, and of course it'd be full of features, full of little compartments, full of little like things, and it would be kind of crazy and cool. And obviously have that little kind of docking platform for your despoiler in the future as well. Right then, I forgot all about the Battle Force 2000 logo on the Demon box. Yeah, the Battle Force 2000 logo was on like all of the Iron Grenadier stuff, wasn't it? Pretty much. Because they came out at the same time and they were supposed to be battling against each other. It was like that was like the faction versus faction sort of situation. The fact that the Iron Grenadier had the Battle Force 2, yeah, they've even got the digital explosion colors for Battle Force 2000 in the background as well. It's so weird and funny at the same time. I mean, surely Iron Grenadiers deserves its own branding, but whatever. Yeah, so next up, then we'll move on from the Demon. We're getting a little bit into kind of ridiculous territory here, and it's really just so I can kind of talk about some of the fun things that I'd like to see in the line. The Maggot. I don't think this is off the table. I think this is entirely possible. You might disagree with me. I just think it would be the Hiss tank split in half, maybe a little bit bigger. But effectively, you could probably get away with the two pieces being the same, not the same size as one Hiss tank, but it's going to be longer than a Hiss tank, obviously. Of course it will. But it doesn't have to be like massively bigger. Do you know what I mean? That said, I still think this could be done. And the way that it connects actually really does minimize the kind of like real estate that it takes up. So when you break up into different parts, it's really cool because obviously you got the gun platform which comes off the top, then you got two like little separate tank kind of pieces that could kind of like operate separately. So the fact that you've got like a 3-in-1 kind of scenario here, exactly just like the Mean Dog, Walter, which I think I didn't put in the last episode, but again, it's worth it. I think the mean dog would be phenomenal, actually, or mead dog, as you've called it, which would be a dog that's drunk all the time. But yeah, this would be an absolute dream for me. You could do your worms driver. You could even do a worms officer, but they might be too similar. So maybe you just do a worms driver, right? And then maybe we get a worms officer later. Full force will give you worms. Yes, it will, Brian. And then after that, again, I think you're talking like some sort of female gunner. I know it's like the same format each time, but it kind of is a nice tried and true sort of situation. And then what I haven't done is sprinkled in foreign characters throughout all of these, but I definitely think that is something that they should be doing and probably will do. Even though the Glenda reaction was odd, I did find that most people ended up coming around to her. So I think it would be another thing of like, who the hell is this? And then it's like, oh, okay, once you kind of work out who it is and maybe get a little background of it, maybe they become a little bit more interesting to you, and maybe it becomes one of those things where you're actually looking forward to that particular character and figure. But yeah, this is one where I'm just gonna have to let you guys think about this, because I can't think of any other cool tiers that, you know, like figure wise, that could go with this one. But yeah, I think the Thunderclap, I looked at Thunderclap and thought it was a little too large. I think the Mean Dog is a bit bigger than the Maggot in length anyway, but I still think both of them would do well and could be done as Haslabs. I'm gonna keep the dreams alive, is all I'm saying. And the Cobra Maggot, my mate Matthew Bales and Dean Bales used to live down the road from me in Munsley. They got this for Christmas, the Maggot, and I was so jealous, and I would go over there lots to play with this thing. But yeah, it was awesome. So this was the only time I got to play with the original and in the vintage era, was when my mates Matt and Dean got it for Christmas. I was so jealous. Matt and Dean had down the road, they had the Maggot. My mate Sean Risley, Riz, he had the Tomahawk. And was there another one? There was another friend of mine that had something that I really wanted. Oh, and yeah, James Campbell, I think it was, on the corner of the road, down the road again from where I was. He had everything. His dad worked in the States and would just send him or bring him home like loads of G.I. Joe toys. It was upsetting how much stuff he had. He even had all of the old Palatoy stuff as well, including that 1985 phase where we got the figures and the vehicles kind of like reboxed and carded and stuff, but on Palatoy stuff. So Palatoy design. So he had like the Palatoy 85 whale with Shipwreck on it. And I hadn't seen Shipwreck to that point. He got Shipwreck from the States like a year or so earlier than we did, or maybe even more than that. But he had Shipwreck and I could never find Shipwreck, and I was so jealous. Anyway, what am I talking about? That said, I was very jealous of his whale. I was very jealous of Matt and Dean's Maggot, Kitty said. And I was very jealous of Riz's Tomahawk. So there you go. I did get to play with them as a kid, but it's not the same, is it? You kind of, and I'm not going to lie, I had a huge collection of Action Force and G.I. Joe. I was definitely not lacking in that department. And everyone else just had that vehicle, basically, that I just mentioned. So it was a case of like, I'm not going to complain, because I had plenty of fun stuff to play with. I'm not going to complain. Anyway, that's the Maggot. Okay, now we're getting crazy. Yeah, this might be a step too far, and I understand. I realise I've probably gone a little bit too far here, and not just in the design and how ridiculous and crazy it is, but the size of the thing. I mean, it's a little bit large, and it's got lots going on. And would it be awesome? Yes. Would it be crazy? Yes. Would it still be awesome? Yes. Would it be massive though? 100. It would be too big, I think. I think this probably, I don't know, it might be about the whale size. It might be about the whale size. Maybe not in height. It's got more height, right? I don't know. I haven't got them next to each other, so it's hard for me to kind of make that kind of guesstimation. But it's the bug, and it's ridiculous, but it's got like loads of cool features. And of course, the Secto Viper. And, you know, maybe this is where you get a Hydro Viper officer. Maybe this is where you could start getting those kind of things thrown in here. Not as big as the whale. Thank you, Ryan. In that case, it's back on the table again. I'd pay $600 for this without batting an eye, says Paul. That's why we're friends. Cheers. I'd back the Cobra Bug in a heartbeat, says Will. That's why we're friends. if you're gonna talk positively about the bug, then we're locked in. Brian wants Sexton Vipers so bad. Secto Vipers, yes. Sexton Vipers. Sexton, I think, was a town near where I lived in Norfolk. I don't know, didn't know they had Vipers, but that's pretty cool, Brian, to know. Derek says this would be a hard pass. Well, we can't all have good taste. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, Derek. I know this. I do know this one is gonna. This isn't going to be one of the things where everyone's going to be like, "Yeah, let's do it." Obviously, this is Marmite. You either love it or hate this one. But a lot of people are loving it. It would look like in the comments. Anyway, I think it's cool. I think you could do a lot of cool stuff with it. Loads of amazing features. Again, maybe utilizing some sort of water-based kind of like interactivity sort of situation. And then what I mean is, like, in the same way we had a stand for the Moray, this one doesn't really need a stand per se, because it is like, it's so awkward looking and weirdly proportioned and oddly shaped that it's not like, it's not doing anything. It's not really doing anything that would necessitate an entire stand. I'm using that Wayne's World reference again, aren't I? But anyway, the little subs that come off, yeah, all that kind of stuff would be amazing. I think it would be really fun. And again, lots of cool little additions and extras. And I feel like the little side subs that come off, the little kind of like what they're called, like they're just little motor vehicle, underwater vehicles, like what they're called, seal. What do you call them? Airborne's Customs. There were seal delivery systems, is it? Something like that. But those little things that the Hydro Vipers on the side of on the box art, that was taken 100% from the design of the Sea Lion, which was a Palitoy, like a Palitoy original design and vehicle, and is still one of the hottest, amazing, best vehicles going in that kind of vintage era and everything. But yeah, that had the same thing, little kind of, removable little side pods and everything. But all that, I mean, so much to enjoy on this one. You could have some sort of like bug weapons operator, female in the sector. No, I'm just kidding. But you know what I mean? You could do the similar kind of thing here. You could throw in some very, very cool foreign homage. You could do all sorts of awesome stuff with this one. And I'd be here for it 100%. A flight stand for this one, says Will. Yeah, like kind of like high up, just like operate. That'd be so cool. Sealed delivery vehicle, SDV. Thank you. Probably closer to the Hammerhead subs. Thank you, Airborne's Customs. I was just trying to think of what you said the other day, and I couldn't remember it. But yeah, that's effectively what I'm saying. Like a little mini sub to kind of like operate is all I was getting at. Jamie Lynn says, just curious, would I be interested in a classified bug with similar design cues, yet smaller overall? It would have to have the same features. But I think if it's too small, of, from like a figure versus the actual vehicle aesthetic, it will probably lose something or look a little bit weird. But it probably would have to be slightly smaller, in all honesty, than to scale. I think if they scaled it up based on the figure size, they probably would have to then bring the vehicle down a little bit as well. I prefer the design of the Cobra Hammerhead over the bug, says HollowNet One. Totally fine and totally cool, and that would be another awesome one to do. But obviously, it's not in my list, unfortunately. But it's an awesome vehicle, definitely. Oh, a flight stand for the pod that came off. I like that, Will. Yeah, no, I get it. And that's a great idea, actually. It would be a must that it floats in water, absolutely, Johnny. In much the same way as the whale. I think the whale would have to float, and I think this would have to float, and I think it would be with electronics inside, exactly. Well, the thing is, you can get remote controlled, water-based vehicles. They do waterproof innards, so it's totally possible. It might be expensive, but it's totally possible. Or there might be an option where you could take some of that out if you didn't fancy putting it in the water, if you didn't want to. But anyway, that's just I don't know, whatever. It is what it is on that one. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know, just lots of cool elements here, lots of cool little hidden compartments and lots of amazing features. And I think this would be pretty cool. Any more? Yes, of course. I have said this in the past. I'm not going to take it back, but it is long. This is a long one, Kitty said. And also quite wide when you consider 3-figure width sort of, pods. It is the Cobra Mamba. Now, again, this is this to me screams iconic Cobra to me. There's something so incredibly cool about this design. The fact that the rotors, overlap and kind of, miss each other as they spin round. Obviously it's an incredible, sleek, interesting double tail design that kind of comes together at the back. You've got the secondary pods that come out as well. And the Gyro Viper, or Hero Viper as they say in Greece. But the Gyro Viper would be phenomenal as a figure. That is, and again, one of my favorite vehicle drivers is or pilots in this case is the Gyro Viper, and yeah, so perfect. I think no notes. Do this, please, with a flight stand, with your blast effects, with lights, all that good stuff, with a Gyro Viper as your base offering, and then I don't know, go nuts with the tiers. What are we thinking? Obviously, we're gonna have to have people fill in these pods, aren't we? 100%. So what are we saying? Because I'm kind of at a loss here because I feel like we've covered loads of different possibilities for all the other ones. I just don't know what you end up getting left with. But when you think about when you think about bad or kind of Cobra bad guy sort of pilots, they've got their own vehicles a lot of the time. So it's one of those things where you might have to think outside the box a little bit. Again, go foreign with some of the releases. I think the Sky Patrol could work here as well, just as the Escorpio Voador would work in any of those. You could throw Escorpio in here. You could throw Albatross in here. You could throw, was it Agua Commando? And you could throw in, I've forgotten the other one. Oh, it's because, it's got this almost dangerous worm name that I don't like saying, Abutre Negro. So, yeah, you've got all these different options that could work really well with the Mamba, I think. When I look at some of the figures, obviously, Escorpio Voador makes sense for this with that red. The red on his costume works really well with the red on the accessories and the missiles for the Mamba. But then, maybe you could purple up Agua Commando a little bit to make him kind of work with that one, because he's blue. I mean, blue and silver, but you could definitely make that a bit purple. Abutre Negro would work really well as well, but black and red, you can't really go wrong with that, with a bit of silver in there. Albatross is a bit crazy though. That orange and the maroon and the dark grey and everything. I mean, it's a cool deco, but at the same time, I'm not sure how it would kind of work with this. Night Vulture would work here, wouldn't it? Would probably, and it wouldn't. I wouldn't be upset for not getting a blimmin' Air Commandos blimmin' glider. I'd be quite happy if Night Vulture came with a Cobra Mamba. But yeah, I think Night Vulture would be a good shout. And Escorpio Voador would be a great shout, Paul. Yeah, absolutely. And maybe a female character again in some sort of maybe gunner capacity or pod pilot capacity, or I don't know, whatever made sense on that one. But yeah. Oh, pass. You said Night Viper, and I haven't got to that yet. But yeah, you meant Night Vulture. That's cool. Right then, is that everything? Have I done everything? I could check, and no one would ever know. That is everything. Right. I haven't organized these really. The only organization I kind of did was putting some of the more out there options towards the end. And I know Mamba doesn't feel as ridiculous as the Bug. I think the Mamba is definitely doable. It's long, but I think it's doable. A lot of people saying they want the Hurricane. That'd be kind of cool, actually. Purple Mamba bats for the drone pods. Paul, I like that. I like that a lot. Maybe you could do the version kind of 2 bat and make them purple, and it could be the pre-paint for the regular, the version 2 bats that we get eventually in the orange faceplates and everything. That would be kind of cool, though. That would be really, really cool. Pod pilot does sound a bit derogatory, doesn't it, Scott? I take that back. But yeah. Edward's customer says Gyro Viper, the Mangler from Deke, Escorpio Voador to cover the cesspool mold, of course, and 1 additional figure. Yeah, cool, awesome. I think on the kind of similar vibes there. Mangler's an interesting one. It hadn't even dawned on me, but that is not a bad shout, honestly. I wish I had an image. To show you, but I don't, because I didn't think of it, did I? That is a really interesting one. It's so weird looking as well. You're talking about that Mangler. I assume Airborne's Customs, not Mangler from the comics. But yeah, Techno Bats is a great shout on that one as well. I love the thought of Techno Bat Stygian. Purple bats sound really good. Yeah, maybe we could get that purple hiss tactician in there, right? Anyway, that's it for this episode in terms of like talking about the Haslab that I'm looking forward to, if possible, in the future for Cobra. Let me know, of course, your choices in the comments. Of course, Ryan has said just scale the buzzbore up to 24 inches across. Genius, absolute genius. I mean, that would be like some sort of ridiculous kind of like one of those, what was that movie where they had big machines? It's probably called Big Machines, just like rolling over a dystopian land, huge like cities on treads, basically. Or Dune, like Dune, you could say, like with all of the big vehicles. But anyway, a massive buzzball would be hilarious. We could all get busy in the back of it. Shout out to Word Burglar. The bomb dropper underneath could also drop bats. I love the sound of that, Paul. That's genius. Triple C says, hey, Chris, this has been fun. Would you consider doing a mid-tier vehicles list for retail? Absolutely. I just need to get another milestone hit. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's something that would be fun to do, definitely. Mortal Engines. Thank you, Jedi Ben. Yes, Triple C. That does sound like a fun thing to do, actually. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe after SDCC. You never know. We might get some reveals of some things. I don't know for sure, but you never know. But yeah, that's something we could definitely do. Maybe kind of continue these little kind of videos going forward, just when it gets a little light on the actual news as well. Anyway, that's everything. I will quickly run through the last bit of the episode, which is, of course, to look at what we know so far. So currently, leak listings for 2024 almost all unlocked now. We assume Whipsnake's 2-pack is going to be the Steel Core Commander 2-pack that we've seen sort of hinted at with the promo images of the Iron Grenadier, is what I was getting at. Yeah, for the next we'll do that mid-tier vehicles thing when we hit 10k subs for the YouTube. That would be amazing. Well, I feel like we're so far away from that. Like it moves so minimally, our YouTube subs, which is a shame. But I would love it if we could hit 10k. That would be unreal. Anyway, cheers. Yeah, what a banger episode, Chris. Thank you, Stygian. So yeah, like I said, we can't obviously divulge who Road Pig's animal companion is yet, but I'm sure that will be revealed sooner rather than later. I'm hoping over SDCC, so we can just give you the blooming list as it is. But we're very close to completing the 2024 list at least, which is good. Stop saying list. different ways. In 2025, of course, this is what we know so far. This is what we can talk about publicly so far, I suppose. Stuff that's been announced as name-only reveals in Xandar, Saw Viper, Leatherneck, Dialtone, Frag Viper, Blowtorch, and Footloose. We can't divulge who Smithers is yet. We also, I will say this because I am upfront with you guys a lot of the time. We do know the next 4 retail figures of Chief Wiggum, Apu, Krusty, and Sideshow Bob. It isn't those characters from Simpsons, but we know who they are. We can't say yet. We're hoping for some name-only reveals next couple of weeks. And then, of course, the exclusives and miscellaneous. We are aware, actually, now of all of that. We know every single one of those in that list we know, but we can't say. So all I will say is it is looking like a phenomenal 2025 is all I'll say on that one. Phenomenal 2025. Retro classified, we are aware of 6 of the 9, but again, we can't, unless we get some name onlys, we can't unlock them yet. But as I stated before, we are in for one hell of a 2025. Anyway, as well as that, we know our name-only reveals currently are Starduster, Nightfall's Falcon, Leatherneck, Blowtorch, Footloose for the Joes, and Road Pig, Frag Viper, Raptor, and Xandar for Cobra. We have seen Raptor pieces leaked. We've seen his head with cowl. We've seen... what else have we seen? We've seen quite a lot of Raptor, haven't we, I want to say. What the other, I've completely forgotten what we've seen of Raptor now. That's going to bug me, unless I can, because again, this was quite a while ago. Those leaked, those images. I've got to have them in my phone somewhere. But yeah, we saw some more elements to Raptor, didn't we? I'm pretty sure we did. Not like the wings or anything, but like the shoulder pieces. I want to say we've seen the bird. Oh, yeah, we've seen the bird definitely. But I feel like we've seen shoulder pieces. Or am I confusing what we've seen of Nemesis? I can't. This is going to drive me mad. Maybe it is just the cowl and the bird. No, it's that kind of secondary. It's like a fuzzy secondary, isn't it? Yeah, there you go. So just to confirm, we have seen these elements. We've seen a head sculpt, cowl, the secondary kind of like furry boob coverage, and one bird. So we have seen those elements. That's what I was getting confused with, because then there's me looking at, obviously you look at the Nemesis Immortal now that we've kind of seen completely, and he's got like those little, got those bone shoulder pads, and I was thinking, have I dreamt the fact that I feel like he's got shoulder pads as well? But no, he's got that secondary, so it's cool. Xandar, we haven't seen of Xandar yet, have we? No, Paul's saying you cannot wait for him. I got it. We haven't seen anything for Frag Viper yet. There's a possibility we may have seen like Road Pig's legs in that group of images that came out like not too long ago, where he had like the kind of like, it just looked like regular kind of pants basically, but they look quite thick, the legs. So there's a possibility that we may have seen some Road Pig bits, but I also got an inkling we haven't at the same time. And it's something else that I'm just not really grasping. I'm terrible when it comes to the parts, genuinely. And I don't think we've seen anything from the others other than maybe artwork of Nightfall's Falcon on the Once a Man box art, which of course has been revealed, hasn't it? So yeah, that's pretty much where we're at the moment. It's nice to have a few things not leaked at the moment. Obviously, I'm sure they will do. But I'm looking forward to getting some new stuff over SDCC to kind of enjoy, maybe unlock a few things on the listings as well. And of course, finally, we have these renders. Currently, this is what this is all we have at the moment: Dialtone and Saw Viper. Both really cool looking figures, though. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. I'm not saying Stanley because I don't want to give anything else away that I haven't already given away with Road Pig, but I'm not. I'm going to stay. I'm going to say strong on that one because I know that obviously I did mess up with the Iron Grenadier bat. I'm personally never going to make myself live that down. But yeah, are Snowcat and Thunder Machine still rumored? 80s Toy Boy, yes, still rumored. All I can say on that one is that we don't have any more information since they were rumored last year. Was it now, or like the start of this year? It was a while ago, but nothing new on that one. Is Road Pig retail? Yeah, he's just a figure pet. So yes, I just had to double check that. I wasn't sure if there was another listing thing on them. On the listing, yeah, he's just a figure pet situation. Same as Junkyard, same as Crocmaster, same as Timber, same as. I can't think of any others that we've got. We've got loads. Anyway, yeah, it's same as that, same as them. Road Pig comes with an Iron Grenadier actual bat. That'd be quite funny. Can't wait for the blowtorch render. Todd, honestly, that is a low level banger as well for me. Like it's one of those ones. Norgahide, thank you, Airborne's Customs, is another figure pet. Yeah, like the bloomin' blowtorch figure is one of those ones where like I don't really kind of pay it much attention, because obviously if you were in and around the period of time where we got like about 20 blowtorches in the modern era, including 2 very similar deco ones, maybe 3 similar decoed ones, then yeah, it was, wasn't it? Because it was the 25th, then 2 50th kind of releases with ever so slight variation, and then the green and tan version. We had 4 blowtorches within like, I don't know how many years it was. It wasn't many, but we had 3 in a very short period of time, 4 in a fairly short period of time. But yeah, so like with blowtorch, it's almost like a situation where you almost kind of know what you're about to expect. But now when I think about it, I'm like, oh no, this is going to be awesome. It's going to be amazing. Technically scrap iron. You're right, Darren. You're 100% right, because scrap iron was technically a figure pet price point and was listed as a figure pet. So yeah, his drone is his pet. So yeah. Triple C, is it 1 or 2 pets with Road Pig? This is the last question I will answer on Road Pig. He comes with 1 pet. Okay, that's all I can say. Target, Wreckage, and Walmart Nightfall Shockwave dropping this month. Yes, Joe OC, very excited for those, definitely. When you say we know the names of Unrevealed, how many in the grouping of we? The channel. The channel knows. So yeah, as in the team, which is effectively me, isn't it? It's me and like Pat and Justin and Adam, basically. Yeah, for the most part. But yeah. What else are we saying? Technically, Shipwreck and Polly and Spirit and Freedom are figure and pet too. Technically, they are, but listings wise, they are not. They are single carded retail wave figures. Rex Ship 85. So technically yes, and technically no. Depends what technical angle you're coming at, doesn't it? Basically, they're small enough to be not considered a different price point. Who's Izzy Pet? Nice one, Scott. Nice one. I'm ready for Desert Scorpion, says White. Yeah, that'd be sweet. Swamp Torch. Interesting. All the Night Force stuff is on sale at Walmart at the moment, even Shockwave with a Night Pursuit. Yes, 80 Sorbo, I did see that as well on, I think you may have posted it actually, on Twitter. But yeah, I did see that. And yeah, that's interesting. But also, it's Walmart. So like, I kind of don't even have any faith in them fulfilling those orders. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't know. It just, yeah, they drop the prices, but how often do they pull through? Do they full force through? Very not very often. Very not very often. Am I going to SDCC? I'm not, Yojo OC. That would be amazing though, but no, I won't be there. Will I autograph? Do you want me to autograph your IG bat, Stanley? That's hilarious. And of course I would, even though it makes no sense. I'm ready for Hydro Viper and a giant manta ray. Oh, that'd be so good. Who's going to SDCC, says Josh. I know, yeah, definitely. You'll be there. in small press table 012 or 012. Sorry, Josh. That's awesome. If you go check out Josh. I haven't had any issues with Walmart pre-orders since early 2022. Well, that's good. I'm glad. That's good to know. Autograph the tripwire box. Yeah, pass, definitely. But again, unofficially. Yeah, awesome. Anyway, that brings me to the end of the episode. I'm going to bring it to a close there. Thanks very much for jumping in on the chat. Thank you, Josh. Thanks to everyone in the chat. Really appreciate you guys. And again, thank you for all of the amazing follows. Facebook 9K, Instagram 1K, over 5K now on YouTube. It's great. We're loving it. Keep it growing. Keep it moving. And we'll keep churning out this. I'll keep churning out this content. Anyway, that'll do. Let's just try. Well, I'm not going to bother trying. I'm just going to leave here. You don't need to see me a close up. You don't need to see a close up of my flesh coloured shirt, my flesh coloured tone shirt. Anyway, stay fresh, cheese bags. And as always, after 3, you know what to do. 1, 2, 3. Full force. Laters. That's it for this instalment of the Full Force News Burst. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe. See you next time, and as always, full force. Make sure you get involved with the discussion by liking, sharing and commenting on these videos, and as always you can keep up with the show after listening by following on X, formerly Twitter, @TheFullForce, liking the Facebook page, facebook.com/TheFullForce. We've also added a brand new Instagram, so check us out there as well @The Full Force Podcast, and if you would like to contact the show you can message us on any of those platforms with feedback and questions. We also have a Patreon page, so if you want to show your support for the show, see your name up in lights on these videos, or enjoy exclusive bonus content, then check out patreon.com/The Full Force Podcast, or click on the link on any of the posts this podcast appears in. Full Force.